So let's talk about the NBA and what is going to happen in the next few months, especially come postseason time. Apart from this, I would also want to talk about the NBA's viewership numbers and the struggle that it's been for the NBA to get fans recently and the decline of the NBA. As you guys know, I'm an NBA fan, but recently I've been noticing that the NBA is just not putting out the product that like anyone wants to see. Now look, basketball as a sport is amazing, and the NBA has really entertaining basketball. But the problem is that they're not putting out a great product out there. They're putting up these games which are basically made to like excite you, give you entertainment, but they're not real sports. They don't feel competitive enough. They don't feel real enough. They just feel like a bunch of scoring, died down defense, and basketball is starting to become a bigger joke around the world. People care about basketball because basketball, when it comes to playing it, is probably the best sport of them all. You know, it's easy, everyone loves basketball, and apart from maybe soccer, it's probably the most, I'm gonna say soccer instead of European football, just because of the way that the American system is structured, where they also call it football. But I'll call it European football and American football just to not have any doubts. So European football, is probably the most played sport in the world by regular people, and then is basketball. And basketball is big because of this reason. People want to care about the NBA because they love playing basketball so much, and it's just the way that it works. The reason why I got into basketball was because I started playing it, and then naturally through the progression of time, I wanted to play the game, but first I got really interested in the NBA, and then I developed a passion for actually going to the court and playing. So the NBA really was what got me into playing ball. But the thing is that now is that the NBA's, like, everything is going down. Yes, its teams are valuable, and yes, everything is happening. And I don't mean to compare it to the NFL because they're two completely different leagues. The NFL and the NBA structure themselves differently. But I do believe that the NBA has lost a lot of its draw. And I believe it's because of three main reasons, and I'm going to break that down today. The first one is there's not any rivalries, there's not any bad blood. And I saw someone say this in a podcast the other day. I think it was Jalen Brunson, that we're all there to get our money, play the game, and hopefully win, and just get out. Because Jalen Brunson, and Josh Hart of the New York Knicks were in a podcast basically talking about like who could you beat up in the league, and it's like, yeah, maybe before they weren't trying to beat each other up, but they were definitely trying to win, and they did not like each other. Now it feels like everyone in the NBA are just friends. It feels like they all love each other. They're all, buddies. And even though that's great for the mental health probably of an NBA player, just being able to have friends on other teams and being able to compete against your guys, it, for the fans, is not as an effective way of playing the league. Right? Like now, where by the second quarter, there's are 60 points scored, and when someone scores 86, they're getting blown out. It's like we need some competitive edge. We need some defensive grime. And we need something to keep us in the game, because it's like, I'm sorry, after I've watched 260 points in a basketball court go in, I get bored. And that's just the truth. Like, I'm sorry, but if you really watch an entire basketball game with all of the scoring that's happening, the buckets don't feel intense. It doesn't feel like there's anything to it. It doesn't feel like there's actual stakes up. It feels like basketball has become more of a way to just, feed into the people's short attention spans by having these very low defense, high scoring games, which nobody likes. And I mean this when I say this. Nobody likes this new offensive revolution. The reason why is because it sucks. Nobody wants to watch a game that for 120 points of it has no stakes. And then eventually in the fourth quarter, in the last 3 minutes of the game, there is actually something interesting which is happening. And be careful because not every basketball game is the same. The reason why I say all of this is because there's not anything that is happening in the NBA right now which is extremely interesting. I do feel like that with all of this offense, players are getting way too comfortable just being like a mediocre defensively because they don't have to play defense as long as they score enough points. And I think that that has ruined the league. What I feel like the league should do is bring back hand checking, make it legal to bump some people and to really give them the business. And sometimes when someone falls to the ground, you don't have to give them the foul. Sometimes when somebody touches the other's hand, you don't have to give them the foul. Stop with all these fouls. Nobody wants to see this, right? It's like basketball is a game where, yes, in like by the way the game is played, it protects the player, and that's even like that when you're playing in a park or when you're playing with your friends. Like basketball protects the ball handler from getting injured by a defender, but there gets to a point where you have to be able to really touch up on somebody and be right there with them so that you can actually play defense. In my opinion, this defensive outpour has created poor league defense, extremely high scoring games, and just like uninteresting and very boring NBA product, which I don't think that can be, fixed unless there's a change. Every possession feels rushed. Every bucket feels like it, would have not been done in another era. And there's only a handful of players which I can actually look at in today's game and go, okay, I know that guy's legit. With whoever's guarding, whoever's in front of that person, it doesn't matter because they're legit. And those three guys are Steph, LeBron, and KD, and maybe Jokic, and Jokic. Those are the only three guys that I can look at in the league and say, if anybody in history is covering them, they're still going to be great. And I believe that this scoring, a revolution has made that happen. Bring back travels, bring back carries, stop with all of these illegal dribbles, stop with all of these, two steps, but then you do a third one, and then you might get the half of a fourth one, and then you stop, and then you go up for it, you pump fake, you get the foul, and one. It's like nobody wants to see this brand of basketball. Threes are great, and we've seen what doing threes correctly is. The way Steph did it when he came originally, the way the teams in 2017 were doing it, where it was like, okay, we're going to utilize the three, but the three can't be your entire game, especially if you're a playoff team. The reason why I say all of this is because this game is eventually going to permeate to the playoffs. And if the league doesn't fall back on a defensive recession like it's done in its history twice already, right? In the 90s, in the 2000s, and in the early 2010s, the league was in a defensive recession of sorts, where it was harder to score and it was much easier to play defense if you just actually put in the effort, because refs would reward you playing good defense, you having great hustle, by giving you the calls that would be favorable for defensive players. Now, I feel like the league and Adam Silver especially have kind of just sat the refs down and told them like, hey, please let the offensive players be. We want higher scoring games, so call less fouls, and the fouls that you do want to call offensive fouls in this system. I do believe that this will probably ruin the watchability of the NBA, due to the fact that even if the league fully rules out whatever is happening right now, this brand of basketball will never be accepted as a serious sport. Like in the Clippers game and Warriors, they scored, I think, 160 points between the two teams just in the second in the third and fourth quarter. And the fact that that's actually a thing, right? No, I think they scored like 80 points in total. And I do believe that all of these things are making the league worse in terms of a watchable product in comparison to other sports like European football, American football, baseball, etc.